Hello everyone, Merc here, and this is now episode 24 of our Enigmatica 6 Expert series. Let's see, I hope everyone had a safe and fun holiday weekend, but you may have remembered in the last episode, I had just crafted the controller for refined storage, which is awesome, right? Refined storage is going to be so great for us. Unfortunately, I came to the conclusion we are not ready. I was very excited, very ready to do this. We got the controller. I need to make a few more processors, and then we'll be able to get here. But there are a few things we need to take a look at as well, like external storage. We need to be able to make this external storage. This is going to take some things we can't make yet. If we want to get down into the grid, this is going to take some things that we might not be able to make yet. We need to be able to get to these crafters. Crafters also take something, specifically the destruction core, that we cannot make yet. And if we wanted to get into disk drives, right, disks and drives, this is also going to take things like mechanism that we are not ready for. So I've started to lay out some plans, and let's go ahead and take a look in front of me. Here is our controller, and here are the things in front that I think we need in order to really get started. So, one of the things that I just showed you was the disk drive. Let's take a look at it again real quick. Disk drives require mechanism things, which comes from a dissolution chamber of all things, but there's a lot of stuff in here we haven't made, we haven't even begun to craft. It takes gases and ender slime. We're not ready for this. We're not ready for this. However, disk drives are not the only option we have for storage. One of the other options is what we did upstairs. Actually, let's just take a look at this real quick. Right, we connected our chests or our drawers to the Pretty Pipes network using just a pipe, right? We can do a very, very similar thing in refined storage with a storage bus. Okay, so here's the storage bus. Let's take a look at it. I actually have I have three things listed here: corporeous sparks from Botania, sky slime crystals, and then the destruction core. So we need these. Now, we could make 1,000,000 of these and connect every single chest with one storage bus, or we could fully transition into a drawer system, and if we do that, then we only need one storage bus to interact with the drawer system, but in order to make a drawer system, we need, so drawer, the drawer controller, which takes some aluminum sheet metal, which is actually really easy to make, just aluminum plates, which we can make no problem. It takes a drawer, also easy to make. The processor is where things get a little tricky. I think this is probably where we're going to start working today. We need to be able to make these logic units, which we can make logic units. In fact, we've already done that. We need to make smart chests, which again, we should be able to make this no problem. The problem comes down to the machine frame. In order to get into a machine frame, we need to have a pneumatic craft assembly controller set up, okay? The item that we need is a rough machine frame, which again comes from compacting Invar, which we can make coated machine frame top, which comes from molten plastic. And then the machine base, which is stuff that we've recently been able to craft as well. So the plastic is where we, I think, need to start. We need to be able to get liquid plastic. But we then need to also investigate this pneumatic craft repressurized assembly. Right? So we need to get an Amadron tablet just to be able to get the plan, right? The program. We also need to craft an assembly platform, which, of course, we're not going to use the assembly controller to make it. We're going to use it with mechanical crafting. Plastic sheets again, look at this. Plastic in 2 locations. Plastic again to make these cylinders. A cannon barrel, that's nothing. Yeah, so plastic here, plastic there, liquid plastic. How about the other bits, okay? This is similar. We need plastic here, we need pipes, we need brass hands, pneumatic dynamo. Right, turbine reactor. Oh, perfect. Okay, we already have our pressure chamber set up. So we're almost ready to make these things. We just need the plastic. Again, just the plastic. Check the last one, right, just to make sure. Ooh, we need an energy rod from Powa as well. So we might have to investigate Powa a little bit too. But step 1, plastic. So plastic will get us a drawer controller. Great. Then we can plug all of our items into drawers. We can plug our refined storage system into the drawers, right? But that doesn't actually let us use it just yet because we need a grid. The grid is actually how you interact with the items. You can't right-click on this and then get items out or put items in. This controller just controls all the other bits that are part of the network. So we need to be able to make a grid. That's a destruction core. We'll also see the storage bus requires a destruction core, and the crafter takes a destruction core. So if we take a look real quick to see what a destruction core is, the destruction core is a pressure chamber with the corporeal spark. So how do we make that? This is ectoplasm, which we have. Bottled ghosts, which you get from the nether just by right-clicking the air, so that's real easy. Then we got sparks from Botania. We need blaze quartz, which is easy to make. We need to get nebu drops, which unfortunately is going to take, I think, a little bit more grinding. And then we need any kind of Botania petal in a lightning altar, which we have, right? So the spark shouldn't be too crazy to make. The basic processor is also not too crazy to make. And then the ichor crystal. This one's a little harder to make. So we need to blast furnace an ichor ball, right? Well, how do we make ichor balls? Well, we have a couple options. We don't have any of this set up yet, but if we had slime balls and crimson altar, yeah, I don't know, we could make them that way. Ah, look, there is an ichor honeycomb. Let's potentially go down that route. Something else here is slimy wart could get us ichor in a centrifugal separator. We just have to find it, which I'm assuming is in the nether. So maybe we do that one. And that's about it. So if we could find slimy wart in the nether, which I think is where it would be, we could get ichor balls. Or we could look into an ichor honeycomb. So actually, if we come back here to B and we get ichor, we have the ichor B. But there's no way to make it like this. So what you actually have to do is you have to fill it in a jar at a casting table with liquid ichor B, which you make by alloying liquid slimy B and blood together. That doesn't seem too difficult to me to do either. So we have an option here. I think we work on the plastic sheets first, and then we figure out how we're going to get our ichor Bs to make the destruction cores for everything else. If we take a look at the plastic recipe, so actually, right, plastic is one of the quests right here where we are in our quest line. It tells us that we should probably get a refinery controller and then get plastic sheets. Right, this doesn't tell us how to make it, but let's take a look. If we get molten plastic, aha, the thermo-pneumatic processing plant. It can use LPG or it can use biodiesel. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. How do you get LPG? You get LPG from the refinery controller. Aha, right? It just told us that we needed to make a refinery controller. So if we get a refinery controller and we process crude oil, we will actually get, look at diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. And I have a feeling all of these are going to be useful. So let's get working on a refinery controller. Oh, and the crude oil. The crude oil itself, we have a way to get it. We've been using it already. If we put bitumen in the centrifugal separator, it gives us crude oil that we're actually then using in the fractioning still to make the heavy oil and the light oil. That's what's behind us right over here. So, if we just change our setup a little bit, we could still get more crude oil and then turn it into other things. Taking a look at the refinery controller quest log, it tells us that we need the controller and we need 4 refinery outputs. This is, I'm sure, where the liquid will be stored. So let's take a look. This is reinforced bricks. We already know how to make that. Basic mechanical pipes, which are just steel and buckets. Okay, we can do this. And then small fluid tanks, which are andesite alloy, any kind of hardened glass, and the basic fluid tank. These are going to be real easy to make. The refinery controller, though, on the other hand, is mostly the same things. Fluid tank, mechanical pipe, the bricks, but it also needs a superheating element. The superheating element is kiln brick, right? So, unfortunately, in order to make this, we're going to need to go through this process again, which we've done before. We're going to need more. We're also going to need heat sinks, which are compressed iron, copper or gold, and iron bars. Again, not too difficult. Electrum coils, which comes from electrum wire. I mean, electrum is also not something that's terribly hard. I believe it's gold and silver. Gold and silver. All the way back up. The other thing is a heat pipe from Enigmatica, which is block of compressed iron, so it's a little expensive. Block of copper, and then this thermal lagging. Thermal lagging is a thin layer of insulating material. All right, so we got to be able to make that. In order to make that, we're going to need gray rock wool, and we're going to need some kind of black glass panes. So I'm going to start crafting these. It's not going to be super exciting, I think, to craft them on camera. So I'll come back once we have everything ready to go. The crafting is now in the final stretch. We're going to make our superheating elements. Okay, so this is a dangerous radiator. Ooh. We can probably we're probably going to use these for something else later on down the road as well, not just a craft, because these are a block that you place in the world to use. But here we go. Refinery Controller. Well, I guess these need to be in our system. Request. Here it comes. Refinery Controller obtained, as well as our refinery outputs. So let's go ahead and just look at the quest. Quest is complete, no rewards. That's fine. So now we need to make the plastic. Since we currently have, down here, our Enigmatica setup, this is where we're going to add on, because we already have our liquid compressor making the pressure. As we can see, it's building. We're at 3.77. It's going to go up to 4 and stop. So we can plug in our refinery controller down here. The only thing that we need to check is 4 bar going to be too much pressure for it? If it is, we need to alter the system before we plug it in. So upon looking at the craft again, I actually don't think this takes any bar to work. It looks like it just takes temperature. And when we come over here and look at the refinery controller, it does tell us, right, the more heat you apply, the faster it runs. So let's go ahead and just plop it down in the world, just temporarily, like right here. Yeah, right. Pump fluid into the refinery. Refineries need to be stacked on top of each other. This machine requires or produces heat. Okay. So those heat blocks that we had actually just made, maybe we'll want another one. Let's try using a bucket of lava. And I'm going to put the lava directly beneath it to see what happens here. Okay, we can see the temperature going up and up and up. So it's hit 200 and it's going to keep going. All right, so we know that that works. Let's go ahead and just pick the bucket of lava back up, because I don't know if there's a problem if this gets too hot. We'll have to figure that out as well. But first we're going to need some of our crude oil. All right, we're going to put our bitumen chunks in the centrifugal separator, and notice, right, I have set auto output to disabled, and the fractioning still on the right is auto input disabled. We do not want any of the liquid being produced by this crude oil to make it into there, because we're going to need it. We're also going to use this basic fluid tank to get the liquid out once this has finished. Looking back at our refinery controller, it does tell us that we do not want any blocks exposed to the air, which will waste heat. So we're just going to take some cobblestone to start with and do this. I think I want to leave at least the front face open so we can see it. But now when I look at it, it doesn't say anything about it being exposed anymore, does it? Let's break one and check it. Oh, it's under problems. 1 of 24 block faces are exposed. If we fill this back in, just we got to pump fluid in. Perfect. We can see up here, our machine is done. Let's go ahead and pull the liquid out. There's all 1,300 millibuckets. We're gonna go down. We're gonna place the lava first. I don't know if we get better rates if the thing is already warm when it starts, but we're gonna check that out. And looking again, the liquid that we want is LPG, but biodiesel will also work. And we're gonna see that of the 4 crafts that this makes, only one of them is the LPG. We might be able to turn diesel into biodiesel. I'm not sure about that. Haven't looked into it yet. And I don't know what this means exactly. This might mean the more temperature you have, the better. Uh-oh. That turned to obsidian. Okay, so we got to be prepared. In fact, I'm going to grab 2 buckets worth of lava because I don't know how many we're going to need. We'll go down, mine the obsidian, and put our liquid in. Put the fuel in first. Okay, we'll get it all in there. Mine this obsidian up. Get another bucket of lava in and ready to go. It's actually processing fairly quickly, even though our temperature dropped so far. We are getting LPG, which is good. This does tell us, though, that 100 millibuckets of LPG and a piece of coal should turn into 1,000 millibuckets of molten plastic. And I don't know how many we need. This is just all the crude oil we had available to us. So we're going to see real quick. We are now out of crude oil. Let's pull our bucket of lava back out. So we got 260 millibuckets of LPG. The quick math that I've just done tells me we need about 39 whole buckets of molten plastic. And this is why. In order to make this rough machine frame into a coated machine frame, we need 1,000 millibuckets of the molten plastic. Okay, so that's 1 bucket. And I said we needed 39. Where do all the other ones come from? Well, if we look at the rough machine frame, right, this takes these machines from Enigmatica. And if we take a look, this needs 2 plastic sheets on its own, but 2 of these cylinders requires 6 plastic sheets. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at all of these. Look, this is another 6 plus 6 to get a half. Over here, again, there's a lot more of those plastic cylinders. So, we also need a diamond drill bit. I haven't even looked into yet. Hopefully that's not too hard to make. So I'm going to aim to make at least 40 buckets of plastic. But in order to get 40 buckets of plastic, we're going to need a lot more of that crude oil. And in order to get more crude oil, I think I'm just going to run around on the overworld and try to find oil patches. Okay, off in the distance here, I believe that is oil that we can use. Now this oil is kind of odd, right? Because if it is what I think it is, it doesn't behave like normal water. You just sort of fall into it, and I don't think there's any breathing either. So let's go ahead and grab our fluid tank and start. Fill. Oh no, it placed it in the world. I didn't want that. Okay, since those didn't seem to be able to pick up the liquid, I'm going to use the buckets to fill these up. All right, we have filled up 1 tank. Now it's time for the next one. And this should hold us over, hopefully, for quite some time. And we're full. Time to get back home. I've now put 10 whole buckets of this crude oil in. We'll see how far that takes us. Man, that turned to obsidian fast. I wonder if it's random. Either way, we might want to investigate that heat block. This one, the superheating element, because... Right, it says it's somewhat dangerous, but if it doesn't turn into obsidian and it can just keep powering this thing, it might be worth looking into. And it looks like obsidian, or sorry, it looks like lava that's currently being used by the refinery caps out at 186. And it's possible if we had better insulation and whatnot than cobblestone, maybe that would also change things up a bit. No, I wonder, can we put another bucket back here and get it to go hotter? We'll find out. And while it's doing that, I'm going to grab more lava. Smart person would just take the lava down with them. It looks like no, right? We're still at the 185, 186 area. And I can't see below it now to know whether or not the ones below has turned into obsidian. So doing a little bit more quick math, right? 100 millibuckets of LPG turned into 1,000 millibuckets of plastic. So 1,000 millibuckets, which is 1 bucket's worth of the LPG, should turn into 10 buckets of the plastic. So we should need 4,000 of this LPG in order to get enough plastic for our project. And we can see 10 buckets of crude oil doesn't seem to be enough, but we have plenty more where that came from. So in fact, I'm going to put 10 more in now. When this next lava turns into obsidian, we are going to try switching it with a magma block to see how much that generates. I'm assuming less, but maybe if it's permanent, will be a better option. Alright, let's see what the magma block does, if anything. Seems to just be cooling, and we're below. So that didn't work as expected. And when I say that, I mean it didn't work in the way I thought it was going to do. Not that I expected it to fail. We are getting close to our 4,000 millibuckets. And we are rapidly approaching the end of all the crude oil that we have placed in the controller. We're out. We'll just pick that back up and deposit our lava back in there. So, we just processed 32,000 millibuckets, plus, if you remember, we had done 1,300 millibuckets extra from our centrifugal separator, and that was able to provide us with 6,660 diesel, 9,990 kerosene, 9,990 gasoline, and 6,660 LPG. So this controller should be going down in temperature, but all of our outputs should be, I'm going to say, safe. We will expose them to the world so we have access to them. Their temperature is going down, but I do not believe that matters. I think that's the temperature of the entire machine. Okay, so this thermo-pneumatic processing plant, this is what's going to allow us, of course, to make our liquid plastic, but it also needs coal. So let's go ahead and grab some coal out of our system. I'm thinking probably a whole stack of it will be fine to start with. And now this needs connection to the pressure. The pressure that's over here. This is just a very, very temporary spot, but we're going to set it down right here. Connected onto the back, we should see it going up to 4. This whole thing will equalize. The pressure between this is now 3.98, 3.99, and 4, and this now has turned off. Perfect, exactly what we want to see. Let's go ahead and put the coal in so that it's ready. Interesting to note that this will also produce temperature. So, we might need to pay attention and not use too much. Let's see, which one of these is LPG? It's the one on top. We have a bucket's worth. Now if we put it in, it's not working. Let's take a look at our liquid plastic again. I'm sure I just missed something. It's probably molten plastic. Yeah, molten plastic. Okay. LPG and temperature. Ooh, okay, so we need to apply temperature to this machine as well in order to produce the plastic. We'll just do this, and then we'll read it. I assume this side is still going to be open. Okay, add some valid ingredients. That would be our coal. But it tells us, of course, that we need more heat. I guess we're back to using lava again, aren't we? There it goes. It's going pretty fast. So 1 bucket's worth made 10,000 of the plastic. We can see this temperature is pretty high. We're going to want to be real careful with this, I think. 1 and 2. And this should be the remainder of the LPG that is required. Oh, but we need to pull some of this plastic out. Let's go ahead and pull it out in this. There's all 13 buckets. We've got more. Now what are we at? 23,000? That is now full. Okay, we are going to remove our temperature out of there because I don't know what will happen if it keeps going. We should be good to leave the rest of this plastic in there. And then, see how we make a plastic sheet? We have a couple options. We could put it in the world and it would eventually turn into a plastic sheet. Or, there's a heat frame cooling, which you can apply to an item, right? So we might need to make one of these fluid tanks. It says that this heat frame can be placed on any inventory. When heated by an adjacent heat source, it will try to smelt any item, or freeze it when cooled. So I think we're going to make one of these and see if we can get it to work. When we look at this heat frame cooling, it tells us it should be a pneumatic craft tank, so we might have to make a pneumatic craft tank instead of using the one that we have, but let's try the one that we have just to start with and see if it does anything. Here we are. Does not appear that I can attach it, so let's make one of these other ones. Okay, here we are with our small fluid tank. Let's see what happens when I click it this time. Can be placed on an inventory. Am I not putting it correctly? Do I need to put it like on top of this? Okay, so it says inventory. Let's go ahead and just try a chest. What happens if I put a chest down and we put the heat frame on it? Oh. Okay, so we definitely have something happening now. What happens if we put that in there? Anything? It may still need to be the small fluid tank, but we will find that out, hopefully very soon. You know, it looked like it was doing something. Cooling 53%, 57%. Let's let that hit 100% and see what happens. So we're at 32 millibuckets. You know what? Nothing happened. All right, so I think that tells us that really we're going to want to come over to this tank and probably fill it up. I think it can hold the same amount, 32, yeah. And we are now empty. Double check, it is full. Uh-oh. You vandal. Breaking machines. Oh no. Sneak right click with the pneumatic wrench. It does not look like we lost the molten plastic though. That would have been very upsetting. Oh, as soon as we put it in there, we got one. Okay, so this is how this works apparently. You put the heat frame on a chest and you put the items inside it that you want the heat frame to interact with. So we should be able to just let this go and eventually we will get everything we need. But for now, I'm gonna pull out that one piece of plastic, which will complete our quest. We also know that we need an Amadron tablet, and I happened to notice that it uses a lot more plastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more plastic. So hopefully we have enough LPG downstairs to make that. I think we do. But today, our quest, our objective, our goal of obtaining plastic has come to a close. With that, our video is now done, but we still have a lot more work to do in order to get to our refined storage system. So just as a reminder, right, next episode, now that we have plastic sheets, we're going to need to make the pneumatic craft assembly line in order to make our drawer controller. From there, we should also be able to get into destruction cores and everything else. We're going to need to look into the Ichor B or find some of the wart block in the nether. But again, drawer controller first. So, thank you for joining me on today's quest, today's objective of the plastic. I really appreciate you being here. This is Merc Serene signing off.